Do you want to learn how to create drop-down menus for your Discord bot? Do you want to be able to learn how to create a menu that looks exactly like this inside of Discord? A menu that has the option so that when a user clicks on it, they are presented with multiple options. And when clicking on these options do different things based on whichever option the user chose. Well, that's all within this video today. Today we're covering everything there is to do with drop-down menus. And by the end of this video, you have the full knowledge to be able to create drop-down menus for your bot. Hi friends, it's James and welcome back to my channel. This is episode 6 in creating a Discord bot in Python. Can't believe we're already on episode 6. And in this episode, what we're going to be covering is menus, specifically drop-down menus, which is a cool little feature that you can add to your bot. A feature that allows you to give the user a choice from a loads of different options for a specific question or maybe function. There are quite a few use cases in where you can use menus, and it's quite a fun feature to add and to learn how to do. But you've already seen what they've done and what they look like from the introduction. So enough of me just talking on, let's get started. Let's get coding and let's create some drop-down menus for your bot. So the way we're going to code this drop-down menu is we're going to get it so whenever a user runs a slash command, the bot will display the drop-down menu. So to do this, what we'll need to do is we'll need to create a slash command, and then we'll also need to create 2 classes. One class is just the overall class for the menu, and the other class is the specific details to do with the drop-down menu. So the slash command is going to call the overall class, and from that overall class, it's going to call the specific detail class to do with the drop-down. Hopefully that makes sense. There's a lot of classes and a lot of words there. So if that doesn't make too much sense, don't worry. It will make more sense when we start coding, which is now. So let's do it. We're going to first, again, like we have done in the past few episodes, is we're going to start by creating a slash command. And we're going to do this a bit just by copying one we made in the previous video. So when copied, all we're going to do is going to update the name, and in this one we're going to call it menu. I'm going to update the description to displaying a drop-down menu. And I'm also going to go ahead and update the function name to my menu. Brilliant. That's all we need to do for the slash command for now. What we're going to do now is we're going to create those 2 classes I was talking about, the overall class and the specific class. Well, let's first start off with making the overall class. So to do this, we type class. Then we need to give it a name. So in my case, we're going to give it the name menu view. And passing into this, we're passing in discord.ui.view, just like that. Then inside of this class, what we need to do is we need to write def __init __, open and close brackets, self, comma, star, just like that. And then, so inside of this, we need to write self.add _item, open and close brackets, and then menu, open and close brackets. Essentially, what we've written is we've just got it so this menu view is going to be called by the slash command. We've not linked those two yet, so don't worry about that. And inside of this menu view class is essentially saying, I want to add an item, which is this menu class. However, we've not written this menu class yet. So let's do this now. If it still doesn't make too much sense about what these two classes are, it'll make more sense once we've written it all out. So let's write this menu class. So class, menu, open and close brackets. And you can see here, this menu relates to this menu up here that we're just writing now. And inside of this, we want to pass in discord.ui.select, just like that. And inside of this, we want to write def __init __, open and close brackets, self, just like that. And now we need to write some options. And what these options are the options that will appear when the user clicks on the drop-down menu. So in my case, we're going to write 3 different options for the user to choose from. We're going to do this by typing options is equal to open square brackets this time. Then we're going to type discord.select option, like that. And this is our first option. And inside of this option, there are 3 different parameters in which we can give. and specify. The first one which we have to specify is the label. And this is the name of this option that the user can choose from. So in my case, we're going to give a label name of option 1. The second parameter in which we want to give is the description. This is the description that will appear for what the drop-down is about. What will happen when the user clicks on that specific option. However, I spelled description wrong. There we go, spelt right. And all you want to do is just give it a description that will describe that specific option to the user. So in my case, all I'm going to say is, this is option 1. Just like that. And now the third parameter in which we can pass in is an emoji. This is an optional one though. You don't have to if you don't want to. So you can give it an emoji that you want. In my case, I'm going to give it the fire emoji, as that is my favourite emoji. And that's it, there you go. You've just written your first option that the user can pick from. How cool is that? So let's write your second one. To do this, all you need to do is put a comma after the last curly brackets, and we just do exactly the same again. So discord.select option, open and close brackets. And then the same thing again, label. I'm going to give it option 2. A description, which I'm going to give as this is option 2. And then an optional emoji if you want. And in my case, I'm going to give it an emoji because I do love a good emoji. And I'm going to use the crying with laughter emoji. Brilliant, there you go. You've just now written your second option. So to clarify, you give whatever you want as the title name here, the description, and then the optional name. And as I said, we're going to do 3 options in my example here. So we do the same again, comma, and then we want to do the same, discord.select option. And then for this one, I'm going to do option 3 and the same again. So I'll quickly fill that out now. There you go. I've just written the third option here. We've now specified the 3 options which the user can choose from, which is quite cool. But we're not done yet. What we now need to do after this options is we need to write this. We need to write super, open and close brackets, dot underscore underscore init underscore underscore. If you don't know what this super dot underscore init is, this is just Python syntax to do with classes. And inside of this init, we're going to write placeholder. It's equal to, and then double quotation marks. This is the text that's going to appear when the user hasn't clicked on the drop-down menu. So just a placeholder text. As you can see here on the screen, it's what appears when the user hasn't clicked on the drop-down menu and can't see the options. So in my case here, I'm going to write saying, please choose an option. Just like that. And the next parameter we need to pass in and specify is the min value. The min value that the user has to pick. And when I say the user has to pick, I mean the options. The minimum number of options that the user has to pick. In all cases, this will just be 1 because we want the user to select an option. It can't be 0. The next parameter you need to specify is max values, as I'm sure you might have guessed. And this is the maximum number of options that you want the user to be able to select. So maybe you want them to be able to select more than 1 option, so you can enter a higher max value. However, in our case, we just want the user to be able to select 1 option from a drop-down, as that's inherently how drop-downs work. And the last parameter we need to pass into this super init is these options that we've just written up here. And to do that is quite simple. All we type is options is equal to options, just like that. How cool is that? Now, what we need to do, so we've now written the code which will display the menu in Discord. However, if the user was to click on one of the options, nothing would happen as we haven't written that call yet. So let's write it now. To do this, we need to create a new function. So outside of your init function, you need to write async def, and we need to give it a function name. I'm going to give it the name of menu callback, just like this. I want to quickly emphasize that you need to make sure you're writing this function outside of this init function we've written up here. As I made the mistake a few times myself when writing this function of writing it inside of this init here. So just make sure that you've done it right. And now inside of this callback, we're just going to pass in 2 things. We're going to pass in self. We're going to pass in interaction discord.interaction, just like we've seen in previous episodes. And now all we're going to do is this. We're going to do await interaction.response.send_message. As what we want to do is we want it so when a user chooses an option, as the Discord bot will send a message in the channel saying which option you've chosen. I'm going to do an F string. Now in this F string, we're going to pass in, we're going to say you picked, and then we're going to say squiggly brackets like we have done before when we're doing an F string, self.values 0, just like that. This self.values is how the response for whatever option the user picks is passed to this callback. So when a user chooses this option, it's passed to this callback function through the self here. And it's accessed by doing self.values and the first item in the array. And that's it. That should now work, which is so cool. So all we need to do now to get this to work, and we can see it in Discord, is we just need to update our / command here. And to do this, all we need to do is update this view to this menu view we created here. So we just do that by updating the name here. And that's it. So let's go ahead and run this, and hopefully we have no errors. We can see I've made a slight mistake, which is we shouldn't have included this star. Apologies. If we just keep it as self and we rerun, you can see here it's now running as there's no syntax error. Hopefully now if we run it in Discord, it should work. So inside of Discord, let's run our functions. If we type menu and we send it, it hasn't worked. So we've made an error. Great. Sorry about this. I've immediately spotted the error and coming back, which is I've completely forgotten to add a line to this menu view class which we created. All we need to write in this menu view is we need to write an extra line to just initialize it, which is Python syntax. So to do this, all we type is super, open and close brackets, dot __ init __, open and close brackets. So sorry about that. And just while we're here, I'm very sorry, there's one other thing we need to update in our code, is this menu callback function which we created. I mentioned saying that you can name it whatever you want as it will relate to this callback, which is the code that gets executed when a user clicks an option. However, I'm very sorry, I was wrong here. This menu callback shouldn't be that. It has to have a specific name. It has to be called callback, just like this. Sorry about that. So inside of Discord, if we now run our command, we can see that a menu appears just like this with the placeholder of please choose an option. And look at this, when we click it, it pops up with the 3 different options we have. Option 1, option 2, and option 3, all with its emojis next to it. How cool is that? You've created your first drop down. But let me show you this. Let's say we choose an option. Let's go with option 1. Watch this. When we click it, our bot replies with, you picked option 1. How cool is that? You've created your own drop-down menu that when a user chooses an option, it replies with the option they created, which is so cool. However, we're not going to end the video there. I've got something else to show you about drop-down menus, which you can do. So let's say this. Let's say you have a situation where you want it. So when the user chooses option 1, something happens. When the user chooses option 2, something different happens. And the same for option 3, where you want something different to happen for whatever the option the user chooses. Well, how do you do that? So let me show you. It's very easy to do in our code. So in our code here, what we need to do is we need to come to this callback function we created. And it's quite simple. All we need to do is this. All we need to do is we need to write a few if statements. So we want to write if self.values 0 is equal to double quotation marks. And inside of this double quotation marks, we need to give the label of our first option. So in our case, this is option 1. You have to make sure it has the identical label to the option it relates to. For example, even if option 1 have an extra space at the end, you need to make sure that this has an extra space at the end too. Otherwise, it will not work. So if self.values is equal to option 1, colon, and then we need to have this await interaction respond send message. And all I'm going to do is here, get it to send the message saying, yeah, you've picked option 1. Just like that. And now we need to specify the two elif statements for the other two options. So the easiest way to do this is honestly just go ahead and copy that if statement we just wrote, paste it again twice, update your ifs at the beginning to be an elif, and then you need to make sure you update these label names to correspond to your label name for your other two options. So in my case, it's going to be option 2 and option 3, just like that. And I'm going to update the text here for option 2 to say, this is now option 2. And for option 3, I'm going to update the response that says, this is the last option. There you go. So what we've done is we've now given it a custom response depending on whatever option the user picks. However, you don't have to just get the bot to reply with different messages. You can do whatever you want in this if-else statement. So in each of these different options, you could do completely different things. Maybe in option 1, you wanted to send off an API request to some sort of server. Maybe in option 2, you wanted it to, I don't know, let's say you wanted to display the buttons that we talked about in the previous episode, because you can do that. You could get it to even display buttons that we talked about in episode 5. And maybe in option 3, you wanted it to, I don't know, communicate to a Minecraft server, which, trust me, that is very much possible. And if that's something you want to see, let me know in the comments. But you can see what I'm saying here. It can be whatever you want inside of this if-else statements. And let me show you, let's run this and let's see what it looks like inside of Discord. So if we rerun it by doing menu, and let's say we choose an option, let's go option 3. It says this is the last option. We choose option 2. This is now option 2. Option 1. Yeah, you've picked option 1. Look at that, it works. You've got it to do custom responses based on whatever option the user chooses. And that's it, that's everything to do with drop-down menus. And I want to specify here that you don't just have to do 3 options. You could do many different options. You could do 10, you could do 1, you could do 2. You can see what I'm saying, loads of different options for you to choose. However, that's now everything to do with drop-downs. Hopefully this all makes sense and hopefully it works for you on your bot. If for some reason it doesn't and you're running into some errors, then I've got a Discord server. The link for that's in the description. Feel free to join and ask your questions away there. We'd be happy to help you out and hopefully we can get your error fixed and your bot up and working in there. But as I said, this is now the end of this video. If you've enjoyed it, please do consider giving it a like. And why not consider subscribing? It's free and it really helps me out. Well, this has been James. Thank you so much and I'll see you in the next one.